Hi, if you've been a scapegoat and you have done some of the work, you've realized what you've been through, you understand what went into making you a scapegoat, why you were chosen, and now you've set those boundaries in place, you're ready to move on, and you're sort of wondering what's next. Well, today is for you. Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm passionate about helping you understand what relational trauma is so that you can avoid it, get out of it, and ultimately overcome it and move on with your life. So today is all about what do we do now? So, like I said, we've dealt with some of the scapegoat issues that we have faced. We're understanding more and more about ourselves. I think in the beginning of realizing what you're going through, we can sort of become obsessed with the narcissist in our lives. So we learn everything we can about narcissism. And I think there is a place for that. And I think that's part of the journey. But at some point, my hope for you is that we stop obsessing and trying to understand them and why it is they do what they do. Although, like I said, I think there's a space for that. And then ultimately turn that ship towards ourselves and start to learn about us. What happened to us? Why were we chosen? What are some of the issues we face as a result of that? How do we get out of it? What are the boundaries we set? By the way, all of this comes from A Scapegoat No More Forever. You can find it on Amazon. I will also link it in the description below. So today is all about once you've kind of done that part of your journey and that part of the work, now it's after I've stood firm, how do I keep moving on? So today is all about moving on from that role because we want to be done with it. We don't want to return to it. So you may find you have a newfound freedom. Once you stop hooking yourself up to the things that were destroying you from the inside out, the things that were always weighing on you, the things that you didn't like doing, you didn't like participating in, whether that's like Christmas or Thanksgiving or going to so-and-so's house for whatever event that you have. Oftentimes this occurs within a family system. So once you start unhooking yourself from some of those obligations and responsibilities, you may find this new freedom, and that's a good thing. But there is a bit of risk involved in that because if someone comes back and uses that toxic guilt as a tool to control you, that's how we get sucked back in. So we have to keep those boundaries in place. We have to keep reminding ourselves, okay, if I feel guilty, what is it I believe I've done wrong? I'll put a card for a video that talks more about that in depth. So just being mindful, you may find that people within the system, whether it's in your family system, a work system, any other type of relationship, if they start reaching out and putting pressure on you, that's a good way to get you hooked back in and sucked back into your role of a scapegoat because the system doesn't want to lose their scapegoat. You are serving a purpose that's allowing them to continue to function with the status quo. And when you remove yourself, things get shaken up and nobody likes the way that feels. So just keep reminding yourself, it's not my job to be your scapegoat. It's my job to be a human being. That is my job. Okay, so moving on. Once we start to face that fear, we start to set those boundaries in place. We hold it from the people who are trying to guilt us or give us that toxic guilt, toxic shame to get us to return. Now we're finding this freedom, and you may discover there is a space for like this reconnecting period. Some of us may have been born a scapegoat, and so you never really knew who you were. You may not really know what you like, what you're interested in, because when you're a scapegoat, you have someone very much controlling your life, telling you what to do, where to go, how to act, how to dress, what not to do. And so it's very controlled because they're dumping their shame on you and they're trying to control you to alleviate their own shame. So when you finally unhook from that, it's like, what do I like? Where do I like to go? What am I interested in? So this is like an exciting time for you. So from A Scapegoat No More Forever, there are some prompts that are found on page 68. And I'm going to go through just a couple of those, hopefully to get your wheels turning so you can start to realize like, oh yeah, I guess I just don't think about these things. This is something I haven't really had the freedom to do because you'll find that when you're someone's scapegoat, let's say I'm in a house, I'm a child in a house with a scapegoat, they're going to even control my bedroom from where my bed sits to what type of bed I get, what type of dresser I can have, what the carpeting has to look like. They just really control everything, not let you get rid of stuff, not let you bring new stuff in. So it's very much controlled. So when you have this new freedom, here are some questions to ask yourself. The first one, where would I love to live and why? And so this is your time to dream. So just dream as big as you can. I mean, if you really think about it, would you want to live in the mountains? Would you want to live like in a canyon? Would you want to live in the country? Do you want to live in a big city like New York, Manhattan? Or do you want a quaint little town, maybe somewhere in Oregon? What is your dream of where you would want to live? So I'm just going to say, if you would like to, put it in the comments. Where would you love to live? And then think about why. What is it that draws you to that? Maybe you read a book as a child and the main character lived in a town like that, and it like always stayed with you. It never left you. Or maybe you visited a place like that once and you fell in love with it. Or maybe you saw it in a movie, right? So whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. It's your life. It's what you are interested in. So where would you like to live and why, if you could live anywhere? Okay, the next one. What's my favorite part of my home or my space and why? So right now, where you currently live, do you have a favorite part? Maybe you have a favorite corner in your bedroom. Maybe you love your kitchen. Maybe you love your basement. Maybe you love your front porch if you have one. Maybe you love your patio or your couch. Maybe you have a specific chair somewhere in your house. If there is a favorite part of your room or your home, what's your favorite part of your space and why? The next one, does my space reflect who I am? So does your space look like you? I always think the inside of my house looks like the inside of my brain. So if you're walking into my house, I feel like this is what my brain looks like. Does your house reflect you? Does your space reflect you? If you really love art, do you have art? If you love plants, do you have plants? Maybe you're very minimalistic and you like really neat, clean surfaces and spaces. If so, do you have really neat surfaces and places in your home that kind of reflect who you are and what you like? So just take a look around at your space and your home, and maybe you rent a room. Does your room reflect who you are? Maybe you do have all your own space. Does it reflect who you are? So just take a moment and reflect on that. Does this space reflect who I feel I am and what it is I like? Does it show what I am interested in? Could someone walk in and have like kind of a vibe on me based off what they're seeing in my home? Next one, what are 3 things that you value? So if you value something, it's important to you. So maybe you value fitness, right? Maybe you value education. Maybe you value friendship, relationships. Maybe you're a big foodie, where you value really good food. Anything. Do you value animals? Do you value stability? There's so many things that you could value. So think of 3 things that are really important to you that it is that you value, and what draws you. Now, the next question is, how can I bring my values into my space? Because when you surround yourself with what it is you value, you feel more secure, you feel more yourself, you start to gain more confidence. So this is why it's super important for someone who is scapegoated to be able to have their space reflect them, because that was not allowed while you were being scapegoated. If you were scapegoated in a home and in a relationship, even in a romantic relationship, when you're the scapegoat, your voice definitely doesn't matter. You definitely have someone who's trying to puppeteer and control everything. And if you also have a strong personality and you're like, no, this is what I want, then you're probably going to have a lot of fighting, because it's kind of like, trying to get control over you. So if you are in a place that is yours, a place that you can express yourself, it's a good time to dream. And even if you're like, I can't make any changes where I'm currently at, it's okay, because you're going to get there. And someday you're going to be able to make your space reflect you and who you are. And you get to make those decisions, not making decisions based off what you think someone's going to say, or what you think someone's going to think about you, or what you think someone is going to like. Remember, that's old programming. That gets us to do people pleasing. So instead of basing our space off of what someone else is going to think or feel, if they're going to approve or not or like it, instead, it's just about you. What do you like? What do you want your space to look and feel like? And that's what we're going to start to dream today. We're going to start dreaming that today, whether you can make those changes yet or not, because we're believing it's coming. So in looking at this idea of being so controlled and so sort of caged, the next thing is to realize, okay, if I really want to stay on this path, Another thing that can put in perspective to you that really helps you kind of stick to the goal of, I will not be a scapegoat again. I'm not going to return no matter what you try to guilt me with, no matter what you try to shame me into. There is no way I'm going back. We can do a little bit of math. So this is pretty exciting. It can also be a bit of a downer. But the truth is, once we kind of put it in perspective, it's like, no, I'm good. So here is some of the math. So if you look at 7 days in a week, 24 hours in a day. So that's about 720 hours per month. Okay, so if you're just looking at how many hours of my life do I have? This is how many I have in a day. This is how many I have in a week. And on average, it's about 720 hours a month. Now, there are different days, numbered days within different months, right? So it is going to vary, but on average, just for the sake of simple math, okay, 720 hours that we are going to have in a month. So if you look at how many hours are in a month, now I want you to times that by 12 if you were with your tormentor at least 12 months. And if it's years, you're going to time that number by however many years there were. So in the example from A Scapegoat No More Forever on page 70, this one says, for a year, it's 8,760 hours. So every year, roughly, we have 8,760 hours. So if I was with my tormentor and I served them, I did everything they wanted. I took their abuse. I was the whipping boy. I took all the shame on. I, left crying every day. I was in constant turmoil, right? If you were there for 3 years, the example in the book was 3 years, that's 26,280 hours that I gave. 26,280 in 3 years. So if you put that number in your mind, if you write it down on a card and put it somewhere, that way, if someone tries to call you to say, you know what, mom's old, or dad's not going to live forever. He's still your dad. It's still your mom. Or, everybody makes mistakes. Whatever the excuses are. Because remember, when you're a scapegoat, we're not talking about regular misunderstandings. It is this constant torment. Someone has like endless energy to torment you. And so being in that, even though you might not be with them 24 hours a day, they are with you up here 24 hours a day. So it's like, no, I already gave 26,280 hours. I'm good. How many more hours do I need to give for them to have a change? It's not adding up. It's not worth my math. So if you think about how much have you already given? We talked before, and I will link a card to the last video about what it is to go no contact. That doesn't always have to be the case. It may come to that, and I really hope it doesn't. Because no contact feels terrible, I think, for everyone. So hopefully you can learn some boundaries, which the relationship trust boundary model is so great to teach you how to back up and have some of those boundaries so that it doesn't have to go all the way to no contact. So you can learn how to back it up in stages and still maintain some level of a relationship by understanding super easily how to hold your boundaries. So if you can get your hands on this, also it's on Amazon. I will link it as well because it always goes hand in hand with any relational issues. You can learn this model one time, use it in any type of relationship you have. It's super simple. So if you're at a place where you're like, no, it's not working. It's for now. Maybe I do have to go fully no contact, and maybe that could change, but you always run the risk that could be a permanent thing if you go no contact. So be sure that you are committed and that it's necessary to go that level. And sometimes it is. I would say with an ex who's very abusive, that's pretty straightforward to me. It's a no contact regardless. But if it's a family member, it could be a bit more complicated. So that's where this model comes in handy. But even with the family member, there will be criteria 1,000% where no contact is the only option. And that's not because it's what you chose, it's because it's what they're choosing. So if that does happen, then having this number of how many hours you've already given, if you have given 40 years to this relationship trying to make it work, you're going to times 40 by 8,760. So let's just do the math. If you, let me get my calculator. So let's just think about that. If it's 8760, 40 years of that, whoa, that's 350,400 hours. So it's like, okay, so you're telling me it's a misunderstanding and that this person is old and that, which you've probably been telling me how old they are since I was 4 years old. And now I'm 40 and I'm hearing the same song and dance. Worked on me when I was 4. It worked on me when I was 20, when I was 28 and 30 and 31 and 38. But now that I'm 40, I'm thinking about 305,000 hours. Is that what I said? 350, whichever. It's over 300 hours. And it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in 40 years. It hasn't changed in thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours. But this is still on me, and I need to just view them as this fragile, mortal, and therefore I need to give more hours. So how many more hours would you like me to give them? Right? Is it another year? Is it another 8,760? Is it another 350,000 that I need to stay and keep getting abused? Like, what's the number? Because if it hasn't changed by that number, then am I free to go? Or are they going to be even older? Are they going to be even more weak and more fragile? Therefore, I need to keep serving up my life on a silver platter so that they can flush it in the toilet. Because when you're a scapegoat, that's what's happening. You're just putting all of your valuable self on a silver platter and they're throwing it in the trash. And you give more and they trash it. You give more, they don't really want it to do anything with it. It's just a waste of your time. It's so sad and hard. And it's so very hard to see it. Because chances are you love your tormentor. You're in love with your tormentor. It's not easy, but hopefully setting some of those boundaries, understanding more about what it is to be a scapegoat, which again, you can find this on Amazon.com. Once you get a handle on that, then you're more mindful. Okay, people in the system may come for me. They may reach out to me. Not my tormentor necessarily, but they're going to send people like siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. If it's a romantic relationship, they could send your friend. They could also send your siblings and your parents. So just being mindful, someone who's reaching out to me on behalf of my tormentor, even though they're saying it's not, if they're trying to get me to sign back up for abuse, I have to have boundaries with that person because they're not thinking about my best interest. They're trying to get back into the good graces of the tormentor, and they're using me to do it. And they're actually using my life. This is my life. I have this one life right now. So hopefully you do your hours. Hopefully you continue to stand firm and move on, which I will put the card for the stand firm and move on video, and keep learning about how to be a scapegoat. You can watch the videos, which I will link at the end of this one. There's an entire playlist. You can also find both of these books or either one of these books off of Amazon, and I'll put the course in the description as well. Take good care, my friend. You are a scapegoat no more forever. No more forever, never to return again. So keep standing strong. If you backslide, it's okay. Sometimes that's part of the process too. Keep learning about boundaries, keep learning about your rights, keep dreaming and start to live a life that you love because you deserve to live a life you love. It's your life. Take good care. I'm wishing all the best for you, and I'll see you in the next one.